This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, friends.
Hello.
Shall we start the session?
Hello, good morning.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Yes, we can.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we
Afternoon.
Nancy, shall we start the session?
yes,
Yes.
sure. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
A heartfelt apologies to all the educators and salute to you all. My name is
Thank
Sonal Ravi
you.
Andrews, and today we are going to
Thank you.
be learning about basic understanding of child psychology. I'm so sorry for the delay, a heartfelt apology, and thank you for your patience. I thank Macmillan for organizing this wonderful webinar with amazing 235 educators present here. Let me begin with a small story. Being from the early childhood educator's point of view, the story is about a tiger. Now, I would request everybody to mute your audios. Kindly mute your audios so that you can hear me. If you have a question, you can put it, and Sandhya will make sure that I answer your queries. One more help that I'll be able to give. I will share whatever I'm talking. Kindly mute your all the kindly mute your GoToMeeting app. I'm going to share the PPT to all of you through Sandhya Macmillan. So do not worry. Kindly have a pen and a paper to make your notes. So let's begin today's session. I'm in my element now. This is the troubled times where we are learning how to be doing our work and how to work with children in a new manner. Um, I'm going to be continuing. So let me start with a beautiful story. The story is from Greek and Roman mythology. Familiar with Greek and Roman mythology? Not many of us. There was a beautiful princess of a king, a third princess, the youngest one, and she happened to be the most beautiful one. Now, this pretty girl has been working, being herself, true to her soul, and being very innocent. Her name was Psyche. Psyche was a wonderful human
Sonal
being.
ma'am, sorry for the interruption.
Yes,
Teachers,
tell
please
me.
mute. Switch off your audio and video, please. We are requesting everybody not to turn on your video and audio, please. Ma'am, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No problem. Okay, so Psyche was a beautiful princess. Now, this princess was looked upon by everybody, and everybody wanted to be with her. But the goddess of love, Venus, decided that people should worship me, not her. And she got very angry, actually jealous. She told her son, that is Eros, that Eros, we all know, is Cupid, that you know what, make sure that this Psyche gets a most hideous looking beast as a life partner. Now, when Cupid, Eros, went to meet Psyche, he fell in love himself. But he had to listen to his mother. So he told her that you cannot see me. Only in the dark, he appeared and he said, you can never see your husband. They married, and Psyche could never see her husband. As innocent and naive she was, one night she went and put the lamp and saw her husband and fell in love with him all over again. But the promise was broken. Eros got angry and left her. Poor Psyche was left alone. Psyche she went to Venus, goddess of love, and she was put through tribulations and struggles and given the task after task after task. End of it, with the help of all the gods and Cupid, she won. She reunited with Eros and had a beautiful girl called Hedone, that is known as goddess of pleasure, happiness. Now, why am I telling this story? This story has to do with origin of psychology. The meaning of word psychology, psych, and scientific study of psych. That makes psychology. Psychology is coming from the Greek word, Roman word called psyche, means soul, purity. But can we scientifically study it? Not possible. People changed this into the next thing that we can measure, and that is behavior. Behavior of human is called psychology, a scientific study of positive understanding of an individual in their own context. I will repeat what I said. The definition of psychology is very beautiful. Understanding of human behavior. It's a positive science where you understand an individual in their own context to study their behavior. Now it is positive science. So when a lot of people come to me and say, tell me, how am I? Being a psychologist, I cannot read people, and neither can you. But as an early childhood educator, it is very important to be observant and study human behavior. This human behavior is the key in the classroom. Child psychology is about how humans evolve from the conception till the adulthood. Today we are going to look into lots of theories of it. I hope you are going to be enjoying. Note down the key points and do your homework a little later. And I promise you, when you talk to parents, when you talk to your own people, you will feel more understandable and more appealing to them because now you know the right terminology. It is like we have been doing things very, very right. But when we understand the theory behind it, it becomes more interesting. Theory might be a little dry, might be a little difficult to understand at times, but it's fun when we, get a hold over it. Today we're going to learn few theories. I'll try to decipher it in simple bits and pieces and give lots of examples for you to understand it well. So let's begin with the first theory that we are going to be looking into. Let me give you a list of theories which we are going to be learning today. We are going to learn personality theory, that is psychoanalytic theory. We are going to be learning cognitive theories. We are going to be also learning theories of learning, what is social learning and social culture learning. We are going to be learning theories of our most important behavioral theories. We are going to be doing cognitive theory and we are going to be doing attachment theory. Now, as I said, the word behavior. Anybody has an idea what is definition of behavior? Can you put it in your chat so that I can read it? Do not on your mics. Kindly keep it on the mute. What is behavior according to you? Can somebody just write it down in your chat window, please? I'm waiting for you to answer so that we make it as interactive as we can. Let's understand, according to you, what is behavior? Anybody? What is behavior? Yeah, I can see the chats here. Behavior is people's response. That's right. The way people act, interaction, how. Oh, wonderful. How a person, Chitra, that's a wonderful answer. In the way one acts and conducts themselves, the way we speak and we respond. Ankuji, common responses for stimulus. Child is present in the class but is imagining in the class. Response and body language. Pratima, that's a nice one. I'm so glad all of you are answering.
Sorry, Sonal ma'am. Teachers, please switch off your audio. We are requesting again. Please, Kasturi, some VS and M, please switch off your audio. Sorry.
I'm loving your answers. Behavior is exhibited form of individual in its surrounding. Thank you so much, Karimunissa. Swapna is saying the way in which one conducts themselves. I'm not reading out all the answers. All of you have answered beautifully. The advantage in early childhood education is there's no answer which is wrong answer. So thank you so much for your responses. Behavior. Where does behavior, origin in your body? The question number 2. I'm going to give you definition of behavior. Don't worry. Where does behavior, from where behavior comes to you? How do you, from which place behavior comes? Is it your body, just outer body? Is it your heart? Is it your mind? Sandhya, that's the correct answer. It's your brain. Brain is a place. We all have a beautiful brain here. The brain is a place where behavior gets constructed. Thank you so much, Swarna. That's the correct answer. You're right. Thoughts from mind. Mind is something that I cannot place. Is it heart? Is it brain? I'm not sure. It's not a medical term, anatomical term. We use it as synonym for brain. So I agree with you all. Behavior gets constructed in our brain. Now, how does it work? So, first, as we are growing, our parents, our elders talk to us all the time. During the time, we construct a belief. Now, that belief, we start working upon that belief and we develop feeling about it.
Sorry, Sonal ma'am. Mr. M, please mute. We are requesting, please, this is disturbing everybody. Mr. M, please mute your audio.
If you want to say something, kindly type it out in the chat window. I've kept it open. I will try and answer your questions definitely. So let's go ahead. Your belief becomes your feeling. For an example, if my mother is extremely scared of dog, the moment she will see dog, she say, hey, come to me, don't go to dog. So I will develop a fear from dog. But one fine day, there was a small puppy that came in my lap, or it touched me, licked me, wagged its tail. I'll say, no, you know what? Dogs are not bad. I changed my behavior towards it. So there are 3 elements that in our brain defines our behavior. The first one, belief. The second one, feeling. And the third one, experience. Are you able to relate in your real life? This is how it works. First, you have a belief, then you develop a feeling towards it, and then you have an experience with that belief, and that defines your behavior. Behavior is your decision to project your thinking pattern. That is the definition of behavior. Behavior is measurable. That's right. Behavior is measurable, and that is a science in psychology. Our brain has 3 major elements, and I need all of you to use it in our classroom. The first element is known as cognitive brain, cognitive function of brain. Cognitive might be a new term. You can write down cognitive. Shweta, I'll repeat the definition of behavior. Behavior is a presentation of your thinking pattern. Belief, your feeling, and finally experience decides your behavior. Am I clear, Shweta, now? And this is there in my PPT, which Sandhya will share with all of you. Thank you, Shweta. All of you, do not unmute your video or audio. Write in your chat window, I'll definitely answer. So our brain has 3 elements, functions. The first one is cognitive. COGNITIVE. Cognitive brain is a thinking brain where your data is stored, memory is kept. The second is affective. Affective brain. Affective brain is your emotional brain, where emotions take place. You're feeling, then they get into the real life scenario, social skills and all that, and then it becomes your expression, emotion. And the third element, third part of your brain is called
Sonal ma'am, I'm
cognitive.
sorry, the voice is breaking. Pavani Mettu and Mangala, we are requesting, please mute. Pavani Mettu and Mangala, please mute.
Right.
It's muted.
Sorry, Sonal ma'am.
No problem. I'll continue.
Mangala
I'll
ma'am, please
repeat.
mute.
I will repeat 3 functions of brain. First is cognitive. Second is affective, and
Ma'am, once again, Vincy, mute everybody. Sonal ma'am.
hello, can you hear me now? I'll continue. The brain has 3 functions: cognitive, affective, and conative. Now, these 3 functions, conative, I was talking about conative. Conative,
Mr. Micheli Cecilia Das, Mr. Micheli Cecilia Das, kindly please mute. Micheli Cecilia Das.
now these 3 functions of brain makes us who we are. Our personality, our behavior is represented by these 3 particular elements of our brain, which I have typed. You can see in your chat window: cognitive, conative, and affective. Cognitive is thinking brain, affective is emotional brain, and conative is your action brain. Action. What is an action? A child is crying. My brain understood the child is unhappy. My affective brain says, go and cuddle the child or help out the child how to, handle the scenario. At that time, my action brain says, why don't you sing a song? Why don't you just laugh? Why don't you give a lollipop to a child? And that is the action. So this is how our behavior gets defined. I hope you understood the concept very clearly, because this is going to be needed as we learn our psychology theories. The reason I believe that every early childhood educator has to be learning theories is when I talk to parent or when I deal with my child, if I have a knowledge, if I have a background where I understand what is a fact, what is a truth, and then my actions can be proven right for that. It gives me a lot of joy. For an example, 2 plus 2 is 4. That's fact. But when I make a child count again, 1, 2, and 1, 2. Okay, 2 plus 2. Let's count together. And then they count 4. The concrete experience, the logistic behind it becomes clear. The more you understand psychological theory, the fun it will be to deal with children and understanding them. You will be surprised that all our curriculum, you take up any methodology, any approach, they all are based on psychological theory. For an example, Macmillan has given us a curriculum which is so detailed. It is based on Jean Piaget's theory of cognition. Jean Piaget. I'm going to type the spelling so that you can eventually, Google him up and learn. Jean Piaget is how we pronounce it. That's right. Piaget is the right one. He has given cognitive theory. Plus, if you have heard, we have
Sonia,
all
please
theory.
mute. Sonia, please
There's
mute.
lot of disturbance. They are unable to hear.
Sonia and Vijay Kamala, please mute.
Thank you, Sandhya. I'll continue. Along with Jean Piaget, there is another gentleman called Jerome Bruner. He has made our curriculum into spiral. What is the meaning of spiral? Spiral means we are going to be teaching at different level, different things. For an example, letter A has been taught to children in nursery, It is also taught in LKG. But do we teach same about letter A? In nursery, I talk about the phonic sound, I talk about the words associated with it. But when child comes to LKG, he also learns the shape. He also learns how to write it and how to blend the word with that letter. Now that is called spiral. That is given by Bruner. Now, when you understand that everything that you're doing in a classroom has a fact, has a theory behind it, wanted more joy. That is right, Shweta ji. As the grade increases, depth increases and it becomes spiral. So today we will understand theories like this to make ourselves more equipped. In this given time, I might not be able to do the justice to the entire theory, but I will definitely make sure that you get interested into it. I will seed that curiosity in your brain so that you go do homework and become expert at being early childhood educator. So are we ready to delve into the dry subject of psychology theory? And I promise I'll try to make it as interactive as I can. The first one that I'm going to be talking about is written by a gentleman called Erik Erikson. Erik Erikson's theory is called as psychosocial theory. Psychosocial. Social means to be with society, among being in the society. Psycho means your behavior responding to the society. So Erikson has divided the entire lifespan into 8 stages. Being early childhood educator, we will learn first 4 stages in detail. This psychosocial theory talks about child from birth till the death. And 4 stages are for the child from 0 to 18. Now, let's look at each stage in detail. The first stage is called trust versus mistrust, from birth to year 2. Why do we call it trust versus mistrust? Trust. When my mother carries me and I'm crying, I feel good. The question that a human being asks between 0 to 2 years is, can I trust the world? Can I trust the world? I hope you are making your notes. This is stage 1 of psychosocial theory called trust versus mistrust. 0 to 2 years. And at this time, the human being asks oneself, can I trust the world? Now, trust is very important in all the sector of our life. Call it relationship, call it professional behavior, call it emotional behavior. Everywhere, trust is going to be very, very important, isn't that? Now, this trust is developed in 0 to 2 years of your life, first 2 years of your life. This is the time where if you receive a care from mother or a caretaker, you become a person who will trust others and will be trustworthy. And the main person over here is mother or a caretaker, primary caretaker. Let's move on to the second stage. Second stage is autonomy versus shame. Autonomy versus shame. This is the stage where bodily muscles are developing. The child is now able to jump, do the toilet training very well, able to contract the muscles and relax the muscle. At that time, I develop autonomy. Autonomy means self-sufficiency. Autonomy means self-sufficiency. I can tie my shoelace, I can comb my hair, I can wear my dress. That is autonomy. If the child is not doing all that, basic, I can eat my food. If child is not doing, he develops shame. As early childhood educators, we need to encourage our parents, our children to be allowing children to be more autonomous. Now, at this time, the child will be questioning, is it okay to be me? And this is the time when you say, beta, sing a song. The child will look around and say, can I sing it? And the child will sing and will wait for your claps. Is it good? Is it not good? Is very important for the child, because child is asking you all the time, is it okay? Looking at you as a reference point. At this time, both the sets of parents are important. Thank you for bringing to me that I didn't tell you the age period. Thank you, a person who has named development professional, 2 to 4 years. The second stage is 2 to 4 years. That's right, Shweta ji. Thank you for helping me. At this time, we develop a bit of independence. Let's move on to the third stage of Erik Erikson. The third stage is from 4 to 6 years. And this stage is about initiation versus guilt. Initiation versus guilt. Thank you, Krishna Priya, for writing it down for me. Initiation. Now, this is a preschool age. Is child initiating activity well? Is child doing things according to his age? Is child beginning to think beyond the box? 4 to 6 years. Initiate. My teacher taught me letter A. What all can I make through it? My teacher taught me 3. Triangle. Can I see triangle in my environment? Now, this is initiation. The children today are becoming absolutely, instructional. They wait for us to be, giving them instruction, and only then they do things. All the time they need to be occupied, otherwise they are bored. Erikson says that is not right. Erikson says we need to allow children to initiate on their own. Dipti, you're not able to see me. Others are able to see me. Can somebody tell me if they can see me?
Yes,
Because I am.
yes.
Yeah, thank you. So check your settings. Some of you are able to see me. I'm visible. I'm not touching the system. I don't want any other technical issue now. Just hear me if you cannot see me. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. Let's continue. We have moved to the third stage. By the way, the question that the child asked, is it okay to do what I do? Is it okay to do what I do? The first stage, trust versus mistress. Can we trust the world? The second stage, 2 to 4, autonomy versus shame. Is it okay to be me? The third stage, 4 to 6 years, where it is initiative versus guilt. Is it okay to do what I do? Right? These are 3 stages we have finished, and that's most of the pre-primary area taken care of. Let's move one more stage and understand what it is. It's stage number 4, which is a very important stage from the pre-primary level, because we need to transit them. We need to allow them to walk into that stage. And that stage is called industrious versus inferiority. Meaning of industrious is being hardworking. My first pre-primary years were very easy. They were informal. Now, when I move to the next level, I become extremely hardworking, because now I have to do a lot of writing, a lot of practices, a lot of hard work, a lot of physical activity. That's right. The age is here 6 to 8 years. 6 to 12 years. I'm sorry. 6 to 12 years is the age group of this level. And this level is industrious versus inferiority. If I'm not doing hard work, I feel inferior. Now, do you see your complete curriculum falling into the place thanks to the personality development? The way we are doing the development of personality. This is the stage that we work in. Let's move on to the next theory. I am sure you all are going to study Erikson's psychosocial theory as your homework, and read more. It's a beautiful theory. I'm not going to do justice in given time, because I want to teach more theories and give you more homework, because lockdown has given us time to improve ourselves. But I'm sure I have given you a bit of information which will make you study it more interestingly. Let's move on to my favorite hero, and that's none other than Jean Piaget. I mentioned him earlier. Jean Piaget is one of the reasons how our curriculum is made. Jean Piaget has given cognitive theory. Cognitive means about the brain development, about how do we memorize things, how do we store things. Piaget says there are 4 stages. Spelling of what you want, Radhika ji? Jean Piaget. I have just written the spelling. Kindly see it. That's right. Cognitive. That's right. Cognitive theory. Thank you, Deepika ji. So, Jean Piaget has given a cognitive theory where he says there are 4 stages. The first stage, 0 to 2 years, he calls it sensory motor. Can somebody tell me the meaning of sensory motor? Sensory motor, the word itself is very, very beautifully described. Sensory motor. Eye, ear, nose, that's right. Related to 5 senses, beautiful. Yes, Madhvi, it is 0 to 2 years. Feeling the senses, sense organ, using motor skill. What we could sense 5 organs, development of senses and exploring via motor skill. A perfect answer, wonderful. My audience is amazing. I'm loving the answers. Sensory motor development is a process whereby child gains to use a coordination of his muscle. A beautiful definition, Jyoti ji. Thank you so much for helping me out. I'm going to move further and describe you all the 4 stages in very brief, but focus on terminology that Jean Piaget used. The first stage is sensory motor, 0 to 2 years, where I explore my body, I stimulate my senses, and then explore my word to express it through my motor skill. I will repeat. As a child from birth, I learned to understand my body. Have you seen a child 6-month-old looking at their own hand like this and being amused? The child understands that it is me who closes and opens, closes and opens. This is sensory motor. This is reflex. Do you teach child how to suck milk? No, that is a reflex. The child is born with this understanding.
Sonal ma'am, once again, B Geeta, please mute, ma'am. There's a noise from your end. B Geeta, please mute.
Yeah. So sensory motor is all about reflexes. It is all about how are you going to be dealing with these reflexes and understand the world. I love this stage because this is a foundation of human life. Have you played this game? What is the name of this game? Can somebody write down the name of this game? Hide and seek, yeah. Peekaboo! That's the exact answer I was looking at. And this is how you write peekaboo. That's right. Oh, mine is wrong. Peekaboo is the right spelling. I got absolutely overwhelmed. Peekaboo. That's right. Why we play peekaboo with small little babies? Jean Piaget gave me the answer for that. Gave us the answer. The word over here is called object permanence. Object permanence. You can check in your chat window. I have written the word. Object permanence is the word. If child doesn't see the face, he does not understand that you exist. When you remove your hand, child smiles. Hey, my mommy came back. And that's the reason child smiles. And peekaboo is an interesting game for them. Object permanence. Even if I don't see the object, they do exist. Even if I don't see the object, they do exist. To get this understanding, child will take first 2 years of his life. The second parameter that is very important of this stage, sensory motor, is social referencing. Social referencing. I hope my spelling is correct. Yeah. Social referencing. You go to a child who is 9-month-old and you ask the child, come to me, come to me. Child is in mommy's hand. Child will not come to you. Child will look at mommy. Can I go to this cartoon, this lady, this person? And mama says, yeah, go. Child might think about coming to you. That is social referencing. You check with your trusted one, is it safe for me? Have you noticed that child falls down, doesn't cry immediately, looks around to see whether shall I cry or no? And then when you say, oh, The child cries and you say, the child, continues to crawl. So are you understanding what I'm trying to say by social referencing? Social referencing is understanding of facial expression, reading, and this is the basic of language construction. And that's why Jean Piaget is very, very relevant when you deal with early childhood education. He says this is the first step of language development. The child is reading. Reading is the first step of any language. Observation is the first step the child has in developing his speaking ability or language development. So let's move on to the next second stage, which is called as pre-operational stage. Thank you, Dipti, for writing down 3 stages. The last one is formal operation, sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. So second stage is 2 to 7 years. Madhvi, bingo, 2 to 7 years. That's right. 2 to 7 years is the time when child comes to all of us, early childhood educators. It's called pre-operational, from concrete towards understanding and classification. Conservation. I'm breaking the word. I'm pronouncing it slowly so that you understand. At this stage, if child says, Mama, I don't want to have milk, give me only this much milk, half cup. As a mother, you don't give half cup. You take a smaller cup or bigger cup and make it half. Are you with me? If you have a cup of this size and child says, I'll not drink full cup, I'll drink half cup. You take a bigger cup and give half cup. Am I right? And you can fool the child. But the same child by age of 7 can't be fooled. They'll say, hey, Mama, you're cheating. This is cheating. Now, this is conservation. Child understood that you were not being honest. The quantity remained the same. For an example, my little baby said, I want to eat 10 dosa. Give me 10 dosa. Can I give 10 dosa? But I made small dosas. So, with the same amount of batter that was for two or three dosas, I made 10 little dosas. Now, little child in pre-primary years can be fooled with it. But a child above the age of 7 cannot be fooled because he develops conservation. Yes, Chitraji, I do have a PPT. I will definitely email it to you. Yeah, thank you so much. Now, let's understand pre-operational. I'm very egocentric here. Egocentric means I see world from my perception. I see world with my perception. And that is very, very essential. Sridevi ji, I can share the PPT along with explanation. That will be a little technical and right now I don't want to touch it. Next session, we will definitely make sure that I share the PPT beforehand so that it's easy for all of you. Sandhya, please make sure that they all receive the PPT of the same, which I'm going to email you immediately after the presentation. Is that fine, Sandhya? Right. Now, let's move ahead. Egocentric behavior. Egocentric behavior is child sees everything from his perspective. Child will not understand your perception. If you tell a child, I don't like it, child can't understand why can't you like it? Because I like it. So it's very important. Sridevi ji, I'll make sure you receive the PPT. Thank you, Dipti, for moving ahead, but I'm going to be still stuck on pre-operational stage. Right. Pre-operational stage, egocentric, child sees everything from his perception. If you want to convince child, the easiest way to communicate through their perception. At 2, children start throwing tantrum because they are egocentric. That is nothing bad word, okay? Ego is not a bad word. Ego means you're balancing yourself. It's a good word in psychology. Child needs to learn your perception slowly and easily. Now let's move ahead. And second term that I'm going to be talking about in pre-operational, one I said is egocentrism. Egocentrism is the first term I spoke about. The second term that I'm going to be talking about is very well known. It's called schema. I'm sure your curriculum planner, your school owners have told you that take concrete objects into the class. Concrete objects into the class. Why do they say that take concrete objects into the class? For a very simple reason. That child has to explore it by touching it, seeing it, if necessary, smelling it, tasting it, or hearing it. This sensing it in actuality will be able to develop schema, that is perception. For an example, a little baby, was on a ride with mama, and mama saw the doggy. Mama said, see, beta, this is Bow Bow. What is this? Bow Bow. So the baby says, okay, this is Bow Bow in his brain. Whenever I see something which has 4 legs, 1 tail, ears going like this, and tongue going, it is Bow Bow. Now this child is growing. It has come to 2.5 years. Now this child is asking, whenever the any animal which is doing something like mama mama bow bow, mama mama bow bow. Now mama says this is dog. Teacher says D for dog, and child says array, till yesterday it was bow bow. Now why it has become dog? Now this is where child will do adaptation of old schema. Assimilation and accommodation will be done. That earlier mama said bow wow, which was the sound of it, but the name of this animal is dog. So this is called adaptation. In our classroom, we teach child about apple. We take apple to the class, red color apple, which is commonly available. So child realizes, okay, every red color fruit which is of this size smells like this is apple. Eventually, he sees pink apple, green apple, golden apple, small apple, and understands even this is apple, even though it is not red in color. That is formation of schema and adaptation. Pre-primary years are very important for schema formation and adaptation. I'm hoping that you all are understanding what I'm trying to say, and you are having example in your brain how it is working. Thank you so much. Let's move ahead. I'm not going to go into the concrete operation and formal operation, but I'll tell you what it is about. Concrete operation is child learning conservation, where child is able to do equation. 3 plus 5 is equal to 8. 8 minus 3 has to be 5. I don't need to count. Now here, child doesn't need concrete objects. He does mental math. He's able to do mental math because he is now in operational stage. Finally, we go to formal operational, 12 years and above, where abstract thinking is in the place. Now child will imagine, I will become Madhuri Dixit, I will become Hrithik Roshan, I will become Abdul Kalam, I will become, and child's abstract thinking begins. It's very important to allow child to express what they are feeling. It depends on the environment, what you're giving, how brain develops. So once Piaget gave the theory, there were lots of people who opposed this theory as well. One of the strong opposition came from a gentleman called Lev Vygotsky. Lev Vygotsky. I'm writing down the spelling so that he can, you can Google him up. Lev Vygotsky has given socio-cultural learning theory. Socio-cultural learning theory. Before I get into socio-cultural learning theory, let me talk about another gentleman who has given us cognitive theory, and that's none other than whom I mentioned earlier, Jerome Bruner. Jerome Bruner. Bruner has come up with a very simple idea. He didn't complicate and gave a lot of terminology. He said 3 stages are very important. 3 stages to make child understand the real world. From knowing nothing to know everything. From concrete to come to abstract. From unknown to known. He said use 3 things. First, hands-on action. You can't say, beta, clap, clap. If you don't clap, child doesn't understand what is clapping. Bruner says, first thing that you do is inactive representation. Put action. If you're saying roly-poly, up, 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 you do up, up, up. You can't say roly-poly, up, up, up. No, you have to go up. You have to inactive. Put it in action, hands-on action. That's the first step. Second, he says, learning with symbols. The next step, you just put upward arrow sign and child will understand, acha, this means teacher wants me to look up. Now this is representation. Second stage is learning with symbols, images. And that's how numbers and letters can be introduced to the child eventually. The third stage is transform in expressive words. Transform into a language. Symbolic representation. You simply, tell the child, I want you to see up, and child will look up. You don't need arrow. You don't need to do it yourself. Child will simply look up at pronunciation of the word up. I hope I have made myself clear. These are 3 stages. First stage is known as inactive representation. Inactive. I'm going to type it for you. Inactive. Inactive doesn't mean not active. It means put in action your inactive representation. Sorry, I'm a little slow in typing right now because I'm talking and typing together. Representation. Inactive representation, that's right. Thank you, Dipti, for helping me. Next is known as with symbols, that is iconic representation. Iconic representation. And finally, symbolic. Symbolic is, language oriented. Symbolic representation. Now, Bruner says if you do it in this stage, any concept you can teach the child within no time. His brain will be able to retain it beautifully. You want to teach about any concept. You want to teach about watermelon. The first, bring the watermelon to the class. Second, the picture of watermelon. And next, you simply say watermelon. Child will be able to imagine watermelon in his brain. Are we clear with this? He says any concept cognitively, if you want to teach, these are the 3 stages that you represent. That's right, MV and Mansa, you have summed it up pretty well. All of you are helping me very well. Thank you so much. Iconic representation and symbolic representation. Let's move ahead. I have done 2 theories of cognition, one by Piaget and another by Bruner. Let's move on to my favorite person, Albert Bandura. Albert Bandura is absolutely famous for social learning theory. Social learning theory in the classroom. How do I teach the child who doesn't want to listen to me? How do I teach the child who already knows A to Z, 1 to 20, all the colors, all the shape at home? Now that is where the fun part comes. If you want to teach child anything, make a game out of it, make fun out of it. For an example, I want to teach germination. I want to teach parts of the plant. I will not simply draw the picture. I will sing about it. I'll sing one song for you. I hope you all enjoy. That will be a good mental break. There was a hole. The hole was in the valley, and the green grass grew around. And the green grass grew, and the green grass grew, and the green grass grew around. There was a seed. The seed was in the hole. The hole was in the valley, and the green grass grew around. There was a root. The root was on the seed. The seed was in the hole. The hole was in the valley, and the green grass grew around. There was a stem. The stem was on the root. The root was on the seed. The seed was in the hole. The hole was in the valley, and the green grass grew around. There was a branch. The branch was on the stem. The stem was on the root. The root was on the seed. The seed was in the hole. The hole was in the valley, and the green grass grew around. That's right. We can do all the parts of the plant through this song. When I sing it, child is going to watch me. What is she doing? And once child gets hooked onto green grass grew around, child has learned parts of the plant without you teaching it. And that's exactly what Bandura says. Grab their attention. When you learn to grab the attention of the child in the class, the child is going to learn very well. The first stage is attention. The second stage, according to Bandura, is retention. Child will now be singing this song every day in the circle time and retain these words. The third one is reproduction. Now you are demanding from the child what words are they. So you just do the action. There was a hole. I know you're singing in your brain, and child will sing it. You just do the action. And the child is singing. That's right. The fourth one is motivation. Thank you, Dipti. You're really well read. I'm so proud of you. Fourth stage is motivation. Now let's go to second. I have retained the words. I do reproduce in the class. I go home and sing for my mommy, papa, and my friends. They clap for me. And next day I come to school. My teacher is so good. She teaches me things which I get sabashi for. You motivate the child to come to the class. The learning graph goes higher. Albert Bandura did an experiment called Bobo doll experiment. This doll experiment, he did in 3 groups. First group, he showed them that if you hit the doll very badly, you are punished. Second, you hit the doll, no reaction. Third, you hit the doll, you are given a star. You are given, encouragement. After some time, when they observed this group of children who were shown different A, B, C, different conclusion, different reaction, at that time, the child repeated what he saw. For an example, in first group, these children, when they were punished after beating, they didn't beat others. In second, some children used violence, some didn't. In third, all of them used violence. Now, it's very important that child watches you do right things. Not only speak right things, do right things. Lot of importance is given by Bandura to observation. His theory is also known as observational learning theory. Archana is asking, can you please explain how to motivate a child who is reserved? I mean, they don't like to repeat. Do not worry, Archana. Child might not outwardly repeat, but you enjoy doing, and internalizing motivation is the key here. I will repeat what I'm saying. All the children in your class might not be expressive, might not understand what you're doing. What is important is you be persistent. If you are enjoying this song, if you're having fun, the child is internalizing that happiness and joy. Motivation will come when maybe not in school, but at home, at some other place, he's doing it and people are appreciating him. That motivates him to do better. For an example, today, if you learn this song, go somewhere and sing this song and everybody appreciates, you want to hear more. You want to learn more. After you learn a theory, now Dipti is answering questions. You are feeling, why I don't know it? I want to know more. That's the motivation. You motivate the child by you enjoying what you're teaching, you being passionate. Yesterday, I heard a beautiful line. Mother gives birth, but teacher gives birth. I'll repeat. Mother gives birth.
Rajni Malla, please mute, ma'am. Rajni Malla.
Yeah. Teacher is who makes you worth. How to motivate moody child. That's okay to be moody all the time. I don't have to report to you. I will want all my early childhood educators to be flexible, to be tolerant, and allow the child to be in mood once in a while. Every day that child is being good, today he's in mood, leave him alone. Every day he's moody, check his sleeping pattern, eating pattern, and water pattern. Check if he's being bullied, abused, or neglected at home. You will have to do little research if moodiness is persistent every day. Once in a while, moodiness is okay. We all get it. Relax about it. But if the child is moody all the time, that means there is some problem with his day-to-day life. And as a educator, you need to really help. Mahesh sir is asking, how can an introvert be extrovert? Why? There is a time for every flower to bloom. Allow them. I'll share my personal anecdote with you. When I was in UKG, my mother was summoned to the school, and they were told, my parents were told that your daughter needs to repeat UKG. And my parents, coming from an educational background, they said, sure, whatever you say, teacher, but why? And they were not surprised to hear the answer, because I would not speak. I started speaking at age of 5.5, believe it or not. I would listen to everybody. I would internalize everything. It is very known fact that they would keep me in a showcase at age of 3 with a bowl of pomegranate seed, and for 2 hours I will eat it without reacting to it. I had to repeat my UKG because I would not speak. And today I'm not stopping. I'm just speaking. So every child has their own phase. I started being different human being from introvert to extrovert when I was in 12th year of my life, when I was in class 6 or 7. So wait on to the child. Do not push them. It's not right to push them. That's called vicarious being. And I don't want us to be vicarious. I hope I have answered, Mahesh sir. Ma'am, can you please explain Bloom's taxonomy, especially about ABCD approach? Dipti, Bloom's will not fall into this category, but I'll shortly tell you about it for sure. Towards the end, please remind me, Dipti, that I cover it. Mahesh sir, I hope I have answered your question. Can you just let me know? And Dipti, you are going to remind me about the Bloom's taxonomy. I'll definitely take you through that. Let's move on to the next gentleman who has given us learning theory, whom I mentioned earlier, Lev Vygotsky. Lev Vygotsky has given a theory of socio-cultural learning. He spoke about zone of proximal distance. Zone of proximal distance. Chitra agrees to me. Mahesh agrees. Thank you so much. Let's understand Lev Vygotsky. He has given 3 circles. 3 circles. Smaller, bigger, and bigger. Now, this smaller circle is what I know. Bigger is what I want to know. Small is what I can do. Bigger, what can I do with assistance, with help, with guidance? And the biggest circle, what I'll never be able to do, what I cannot do at all. Understand? The smaller circle, what can I do on my own? Little bigger circle, what can I do with a help, assistance, guidance? And finally, the bigger circle, which says what I cannot do, what I cannot do at all. Now, Vygotsky says, don't worry about brain development. Don't worry about age. Worry about environment that you're giving. Conversation that you're doing with a child. Communication is the key of developing human behavior of understanding. It is completely opposite to what Piaget says. Piaget says, as you grow, your brain grows and you are able to understand things. Whereas Vygotsky says, you are in an environment teaches you, and you become who you become. So it is very important to understand what I'm saying. Right. So ZPD, Vygotsky is little difficult to understand. Yes, I'm going to repeat it. ZPD, zone of proximal distance. The child comes to the school with whatever he already can do on his own. I can drink water, I can eat my food, I can take care of my bag. Then he comes and he understands, I can do much more. I can write, I can draw, I can sing, I can do role play, I can listen to the story, I can tell the story. Now that is, what can I do with help? That is the second phase of life. And the third phase is, what can I not do? Now, here comes a very, very, well-used word called scaffolding. Scaffolding. Kindly Google all this. Kindly Google all this. What I'm typing, because I'm giving you a seed. You will need to work upon it. I hope I develop your interest into it. Scaffolding is from I cannot do to I can do. By repeating, by persistent effort of a teacher, the child doesn't want to do maths. He's not liking it at all. But the teacher sings songs. This old man, he played one. He played knick-knack with his thumb with a knick-knack. Paddywhack, give a dog a bone. This old man came rolling home. The teacher is fun. I learned my 1 to 10 in singing. Now here you did scaffolding. What child could not do at all, you made him do. This distance was zone of proximal distance. You made it possible by being somebody who knows it, providing information. Right now, we are using media. That is our source of information, our teacher. So right now, this is our source of information. From knowing to not knowing, from not knowing to knowing, you need to do scaffolding. I hope I have explained. That's right, Sailila, ZPD is zone of proximal development distance. That's right. Beautiful. We have got an amazing crowd. You guys are doing very well. Thank you so much. I'm coming to the next set of learning. One thing that Vygotsky gave a message for all the educator is 2 points that you need to do with your children every single day is give them lots of practice and create an outer framework of what you want them to do. Give them a lot of practice and give them outer framework. When you make a worksheet, you're giving an outer framework. You're not giving the answer. You're challenging what they learn to write down. More they practice, the better thinking ability they will develop. And that's the key of education. You give them practice by giving a framework and allow them to do a thinking ability. Allow them to be a thinker. That is socio learning happening. Are we clear with that? So far, we'll do one quick recap. Can somebody tell me who was the first psychologist that I spoke about? First psychology theory that we learned today.
Erik Erikson.
Yeah, please write it down. And that's right, Deepa. Eric with K. Erik Erikson. Hey, all of you are getting the correct answer. Pat yourself. That's lovely. He gave us psychosocial theory. I want you to focus on 4 stages of this 8-stage theory as homework. The second theory that we did today. Can somebody remember? Second theory that we did today.
George Piaget.
That's right. I request all of you not to unmute.
Teachers,
Type it,
please unmute and kindly type it. Please do cooperate with us.
Love you all. Thank you so much for being such an amazing audience. I'm loving it. So Jean Piaget gave us cognitive theory. Cognitive theory. That's right. I want you to focus on first 2 stages of cognitive theory. Other cognitive theory that I spoke about, can somebody help me with the name again?
Sensory motor skill.
That's right. Jerome Bruner. Bruner gave us 3-step how to teach anything from concrete till abstract. How to make it. First is your enactive representation, iconic representation, and finally it will become a language, symbolic representation. Thank you so much. After we did Bruner, we went to learning theories. And I gave 2 learning theories to you. Learning theories. I have got people who answered before I say. So Albert Bandura, that's perfect. The first one is social learning theory of Albert Bandura. And the second theory is of Lev Vygotsky. That's right. He has given socio-cultural theory. That's perfect. Clap for all of you. I love this class where you are really paying attention, doing the retention. We did a reproduction and I'm motivated to teach you the next one. Let's go. The theory that I'm going to be talking about is very, very interesting. I wish we all knew this theory when we got married, when we had babies, and not now. Yes, Yashoda ji, I'll be sending you the PPT of it. Please contact Sandhya of Macmillan. After the session, half an hour later, she will be mailing this PPT to all of you. Okay, so Lev Vygotsky is going to be done. Are we going ahead? Now we are going to be talking about behavioral theories. Behavioral, I'm taking time to type it out, behavioral theories. I'm going to talk about two behavioral theories. Already we have done one. When we talk about observational behavioral therapy, we follow back to Bandura. He observed. Remember I spoke about Bobo doll experience. Children saw 3 scenarios and completely observed and they followed. By being a role model, I can teach a behavioral pattern. If I am eating pizza and pasta every day, I cannot tell the child, don't eat, it's not good. I need to eat healthy food to tell child, it's okay. If I want to tell children, keep quiet, I can't shout, keep quiet, everybody. No, I need to be quiet, and child watches me being quiet and learns from me. Are we clear on this? So observational theory is very, very important. Observational theory we have already covered. I'm going to cover other 2 behavioral theories. One is called, you will not be typing here your email ID. Don't worry. Your email ID is with Sandhya. So when she will get it, she will do it. Don't worry about putting it over here. Thank you so much, friends. First theory is known as classical theory. Classical behavioral theory. Classical behavioral theory. I'll give you a small example. You had your food and you are passing from Karachi bakery. What happens to you? But you're full, so you don't really want it. But if you're hungry and you pass from Karachi bakery, you become really more hungry, tempted. That's right, Radhika, bang on answer. Absolutely right. So this is exactly what we are naturally doing it. When I was hungry, I smelled and I felt more hungry. Pavlov was a Russian physiologist who understood this phenomena, that we can do conditioning. He tried it on the dog. It's a very famous experiment, so you can Google about it. I will tell you shortly. There was a dog. He gave a meat steak and the dog started salivating. He became more hungry and chopped it off, ate it off. The next day, Pavlov rang a bell. The dog didn't salivate. There's nothing about salivating. That's not my food. Pavlov decided that he will make dogs salivate at the sound of bell. So what he did, for 21 coming days, he presented the piece of meat with the ball. Meat, ball, meat, ball, meat, ball. And every time dog saw the meat, he started salivating. Now, when he salivated, after 21 days, 3 weeks of trial, when Pavlov rang the bell, dog started salivating without smelling the meat. Now, this is called classical conditioning. Now, this is done in the classroom, at home, every day. Have you noticed that when you go to the shop with your child, the child says, I want to buy Kellogg's. And you say, why? We are buying cornflakes. No, Kellogg's. Kellogg's, if I buy, I will get a free compass box. This is classical conditioning. Advertisement has been given all the time to tell the child, if you buy this, you get this free. You get this free. Now, this is classical conditioning. I'm getting it free, I want it now. I'm getting it free, I want it now. Kellogg's is not very important. What is important is now your compass box. Now, classical conditioning is also being done on a human as an experiment by Watson. John Watson had a little baby called Albert. Albert was 9 months old. Albert was 9 months old. Yeah, that's 9. I'm sorry. 9 months old, and he was very fond of animals. He would go pull a rabbit's tail, put finger in dog's eyes. Watson said, "I don't want this. I want him to be scared of animals. Now, what do I do?" So what he did, every time he presented a rabbit, he made a loud sound. Thum! Oh, that was not nice. Thank you. Sorry for that. That sound made Albert get scared. When Albert got scared of the sound, eventually made sure that he is scared of this animal. The sound and the animal came together. Sound and animal came together for 3 weeks, 21 days. And that is where now Albert didn't like any animals. He got scared. He was actually scared of the sound. Is that right? But now he associated that sound with the animal. This is called conditional response. When you are not in the class, children talk, chatter all the time. The moment you come to the class, children are quiet. This is conditional response. This is called classical conditioning. Yeah, Christopher G, something that I can help you with, you can type it down. Pavlov theory and Watson theory, that's right. So this is called classical conditioning. You can type it in the Google and Google will give you amazing, beautiful answers. Also in PPT, I have given you a lot of details. So classical conditioning can be done beautifully with the children. Children newborn are not scared of snake or lion. It is we who tell them, "Arey baap re." In my story, lion doesn't talk, "I am lion, huh? I'm very nice and cute." No, my lions are and lion becomes now scary. So that's the point. In my story, I introduced lion as ferocious animal, and now lion is scary for me. When I introduce snake, I go, "Shh," and now snake is scary. But when I introduce rabbit, I say, "I'm eating carrot." So rabbit becomes very, very cute for me. We are doing classical conditioning for the children in the classroom. The second type of behavioral management that you can do is called operant conditioning. Operant conditioning. Sir, type whatever you want to say so that I can answer. Kavita, that's right. That's classical conditioning. When a lunch bell rings, child is ready for lunch. When it is school finishing ring, child wants to go home. Now child is ready for doing the next task when there is a classical conditioning done. That's right. So now we are going to talk about operant conditioning. Yes, Mansa, it was done with mice. I'm going to make it very easy and simple here and not going to get into terminology. There are two important words that I want you to learn. I'm just typing that down. Reinforcement and punishment. Now, this punishment is not corporal punishment. I'm not suggesting punishment to be, administrated. We are going to talk about positive and negative reinforcement, positive and negative punishment. I'll go very slow. This can be a little confusing. I want you to hypothetically think. You are in a lift. Yes, you walked into the lift. The door is open. What happens when door is open of the lift? Can somebody just type it? What happens if you're in a lift and you leave the door open? You want to get out. No. You walked into the lift, but you have left. Yes, beeps. It goes on saying, "Die, Chassis," and whatever. Kindly close the lift. Is that voice very pleasant? Is that voice very pleasant? Is that a happy noise? No, it's an irritating noise. I close that door just to get away from that sound. I sit in my car in a driving seat. I on the engine and there is a beep. If I don't put the seat belt, The beep will go on. Is it a nice music? La 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 la. Is it nice music? No, it's very irritating music. And that's why I put that seat belt. Chalo. Now, this is a security measure taken so that you do a right behavior. You need to close the door of the lift. You need to wear your seat belt. But if you don't do it, I enforce negative reinforcement. I introduce something unpleasant to you so that you do the task to strengthen the good behavior. Positive reinforcement. Child finish the worksheet. You clap for the child. Child wants to do more worksheet. That's positive reinforcement. Reinforcement is to strengthen the behavior. Reinforcement is to strengthen the behavior. Whereas, second scenario, I want you to think with me. Listen carefully. 3 children are playing with a car, toy car. They were playing and now they are fighting about the car. As an adult in charge, there are 2 things that you can do. First, go and tell children, please don't fight. Otherwise, I will not let you play. That's the first way. The second way is take away the toy car. Am I right? These are 2 scenarios. These are called punishment. How is it punishment? When I went and told them, don't do this. This is unpleasant introduced to them. This is positive punishment, that don't do it. Next time you do it, I'm taking it away. I introduce a little bit of negativity in the environment. The negative punishment is when I take away the joy from the scenario. The car was the joy. I took it away from the scenario. That's right. I love your suggestions. Take the car away. That's negative punishment and that's perfect. Turns to play is amazing, but children don't listen to us at times, distract them. We need to make them to take turns eventually. That is the ideal outcome. That is the behavior I want to strengthen. To get them to share, take turn, I'm using positive punishment and negative punishment. First, I said, if you do not take turns and play and fight, I will not let you play. That is positive punishment to decrease their unpleasant behavior. For negative punishment is I took away the car. And they are like, I want that. Will you take turns? I'm giving back. So that's how we do. Distract them. Yeah, that will work a little better, but I'm talking about behavioral management now. So Chitraji, I really want them to come to the turn that with 1 card, 3 children can play with peace and develop joy into it, right? Thank you so much for all the answers. I hope you understood operant conditioning. I will repeat with a simple example here. There was a little mouse. There were 2 buttons, red and green. I wanted to encourage mouse to press the green button and not the red button. Now this green and red were not color buttons. I don't believe that the mouse can see it. There was a pedal attached to the electric current and there was a plate which would appear with khana, with food. So when a mouse would press a particular thing, khana will appear. Press particular thing, he'll get a small electric current shock. Eventually, after 21 days, the mouse never ever pressed the button which was giving it current. A brain understood that if I touch this, I'm not going to have fun. I'm not getting anything. This is reinforcement and punishment. I do not believe in corporate punishment. Punishment doesn't need a bad word here. It means introducing unpleasantness or taking away the joy. That doesn't mean corporal punishment. Please read Operant Conditioning by B.F. Skinner. B.F. Skinner. I'm sorry, I have not made it caps. At times, make group and let them exchange, let them take turn. Why is it always 21 days? Chitra, I love you. You noticed it perfectly. For changing any habits, for human, it takes minimum of 21 days. You cannot make a complete habit in 1 day, 1 week, 2 weeks. It's 21 days. That's a human brain requirement. If you want your child to do something persistently, tell them for at least a month. You're meeting them 5 days a week, that makes it 20 days. So make it persistent, consistent for 20 days, and I promise you they will change habits. Till the age of 6, it's a time to develop habits. Right. Let's move under. I hope that you have understood both the behavioral theory, and when you are going to be going further, you will understand what we are going to, when you see the PPT, you will understand more. How do we stop them to thumb sucking?
Sir, please type. Don't switch on your audio. Please type.
12:30. నువ్వు అది ఫస్ట్ పోయి 11 కి స్టార్ట్ అయింది కదా
ఆడియో ఆఫ్ చేసుకొని నువ్వు ఏం చూసుకోవచ్చు
Purna Tanuja, please switch off your audio, please. Purna Tanuja.
Friends, stop sucking thumb. Now, sucking thumb is an oral stage. You need to check first 2 years of child's life. See if there was a trauma, there was an issue with trust management. Was child given enough attention and care? If there was some kind of unknown trauma happened during that year, this stage will be prolonged. Otherwise, all the children under the age of 4 suck thumb, that is normal, relax. It is going to evaporate. But children who are stuck to it, even after age of 4, we need to rewind back, check the history a little bit, prenatal also. Okay, prenatal history also might matter. How do we change their habit? Give them hands-on activity. Clay, peeling, sorting, peas, sorting out, taking out peas from the pod. These all things, your jigsaw puzzles, anything to do with hands. And child will eventually forget to suck the thumb. Trying of, bitter things, tying it all, it's very temporary. Make child so tired physically that he goes off to sleep. Don't put them in front of the TV where they are free to suck the thumb. Before they go on to sleep, give them a teddy bear or a blanket to hold, so that they forget to, suck the thumb. It has to be done persistently, try, error, and it will work. You're right, pediatrician said kids get over it with the age. That's perfectly right. But if they don't, we need to work at it. You develop this persistency. I hope I'm answering. Breaking Bad, 21 days to break a habit. That's right. Thank you, Mansa. What kind of rewards do you recommend? Internalized reward. When child is going to susu in the bathroom, don't give a star. Don't say very good. That has to be done. When child eats food, properly, don't give them reward. They have to eat. It's for their own. But you can definitely say, I'm proud of you. Verbal appreciation a little bit. I'm proud of you that you ate your food and now you are healthy. So make them understand that by doing homework, by writing things, they are not doing a favor to us. It has to be done. Awards and rewards have to be earned by the child, and negotiations has to be done. So I do not believe in, I'm a bit of Montessorian, so I say child needs to be self-reliant. You don't need to do things for rewards. It has to be internal. I did it, I want to do it more. It has to be for that. So it is very, very important. Yashodaji is saying something. First day of school, they will be definitely crying. Please let me know best way to receive them. I love you, because that takes me to my next theory, and that is called attachment theory. For every pre-primary teacher to learn attachment theory is extremely important. It is given by Bowlby, John Bowlby. Aisha ma'am, thank you so much. I am just going to finish this sentence and answer to your Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth. Mary Ainsworth. Please Google them up. I'm going to teach you the theory in brief so that you can learn and understand it better. Aisha has asked a question here. Ma'am, how to get a child speak who stammers while she speaks? Under the age of 6, don't worry about it. Child is speaking, fantastic. The stammering can be multiple reasons. First, it can be a physical reason. there is an issue with physical laryngitis, we need to check with the pediatrician and rest of the team. The second can be behavioral emotional problem. The child has been through certain issues and child now is anxious, panicked when they speak. We need to resolve. If child is coming from a happy background, no physical issue, still child can stammer. Every child is built, wired very uniquely. So it is not necessary that they have to fit into the mold. There are a lot of speech therapists who will help. If after 6 years, his child is still stammering, you know what? Go to the remedial and they will be able to help. The reason, metabolic reason or anatomical reason, emotional reasons can be there when the child is stammering. Even I might stammer if I just get a bad news about, one of my close person dying. I might stammer. I might start stammering. So it has a lot to do with my brain, because when I speak, there are lots of faculty of brain involved. As I was saying, when I'm typing, I'm not able to talk. Did you realize that? Now, the child might be going through something like that. The child is thinking, wanting, creating a vocabulary, feeling is there. All these things together are not helping them to form in a fluency, sequential, and child can stammer. So there are a lot of other reasons. Thank you so much. How to let them eat properly? Some kids start crying when whatever they have to eat. This is a big problem and it is universal. First thing that you're going to make sure is allow child to eat with his own hand. By the age of, can anybody say by what age child needs to eat on his own food? Can you type? After that, I'll type. I have typed the answer and I'm ready. By what age child needs to eat on their own? 3 years, 5 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 2.5 years, 2 years, 3 years, 15 months. And Radhika can take it from here. The answer is 9 months. Normal food that you are cooking at home, that your family is eating at 9 months. In our Andhra, Telangana, we have a function called Annaprasannam. Am I pronouncing right? Annaprasangam. Where first time I feed my child rice. That's the age where child is introduced to solid food. Whatever is being cooked in the house has to be fed. We have to give them their own plate with the food. Eat with the family. Where child is watching, every family member eating food. Let child break the food, eat like this, no problem. Why am I insisting on it? This is the time where child is developing his fine motor skill, eye-hand coordination, and he is developing optical nerve to understand how I see with my fingers. What I mean by I see with my fingers. At age of 9 months, I develop 4 to 6 teeth. At age of 9 months, I develop 4 to 6 teeth. That is the time my fingers are ready. My muscles are ready to tear the food. Kindly keep on mute. Thank you.
Indumati.
Thank you. 6 months is too early. 9 months is good. At 9th month, my teeth have developed 4 to 6 teeth. My muscles are now ready to tear the food and eat. Okay. Now what happens when child comes to LKG? You expect them to write. This child who is not eating on his own will not be able to write. If you close your eyes and eat, from anywhere you eat, your hand will still go in your mouth. Try it out. All of you try it out. Your hand will, even if your eyes are closed, your hand will go to mouth, not your nose, not your ears, not your cheek, anywhere. It will go to your mouth because your fingers develop eyes. Now, when I'm writing as a child, I need that eyes in my fingers. If your favorite food, what is your favorite food? Can somebody type? 3 people type. What is your favorite food? What is your favorite food? Mango. Dun, 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 dun. Anybody else? Roti, chapati. I thought biryanis will come here. We are in Hyderabad. Okay, suppose there is a mango, okay, or there is biryani. Let me keep it to biryani. It's your favorite biryani. But if I am feeding you, I'm feeding you, I'm feeding you, will you enjoy? If I'm feeding you biryani, will you enjoy as much as you eat on your own? No, that's right. Even though I love feeding you, I love you so much. I want to feed you. If I will not feed you, it will take long time. All this reasoning are wrong. Let child take long time. Somebody asked earlier, child takes long time, they create a mess. It's okay. But it's more important to develop nerves for them. It's more important to become self-sufficient. Remember, Erickson said autonomy on their own. Maybe they will eat little, they will waste more, teach them to clean. It's very important, friends. It's important to understand what child needs. And child psychology is all about it. Allow the child to develop nerves, they will write better. Most of the LKG teacher complain, child is speaking but doesn't want to write. The reason is those children are not eating on their own. I'll come back to my Firdaus has said my child is 4, not ready to sit and learn. He always wanted to play, watch video. Yeah, it's so much fun, no? Videos are fun. I mean, wouldn't you want to do it? First thing, why do they have those things? We have introduced it. What happens? Our brain is made of different zones. When teacher is talking, it is only speaking and watching. So I'm listening and I'm watching. It's only 2 faculty. But when I'm watching TV, when I'm watching a video, animation, movement, speech, colors, everything attracts me. So there are multiple zones get activated. My brain is super active. My attention span is superb over here. But when teacher is talking, it is so boring. Because teacher is not doing anything. She's just talking like this. It is like a lullaby. I can go off to sleep and she talks like this and like this and like this. There is no fun. I go in my dream world. So if you want your child to be listening to you and not TV, you need to be animated. You need to be fun. You need to play with the child. You need to have joy. So follow the theories that we have learned and you will find these answers, Firdaus. I hope I have helped you. Yashoda says scribble is a first step. Yes, that's readiness. Right. Now I'll come back to my theories. I will not answer right now. N is asking why some children are hyperactive. Because their activities are not enough and food is too much. Also, they might have some genuine cognitive issues, behavioral issues, which we need to resolve. My son is 9, who is smart enough but becomes restless soon. We need to develop attention span, ask him to play snakes and ladders, Ludo, tell story and ask him to repeat story. This can be fun activity to develop attention span. Okay, guys, thank you. I'm coming back to my attachment theory. I'm coming back to attachment theory. Attachment theory is given by 2 people, as I mentioned. I'm not making capital, please forgive me for that. These 2 people are Bowlby and Ainsworth. Mary Ainsworth and John Bowlby. It is very important to understand this theory because that will answer why children cry when they come to school. So let me give you 3 scenarios here. Child has entered the school. He's crying, non-stop. Whatever you do, child is not stopping. Scenario 2. The child has walked into the classroom. He started playing with things. He's playing, no crying. When parent came to take, he wants these toys. He wants toys. Parent is taking away, he's crying now. He doesn't like it. The 3rd scenario. Child came into the classroom, crying a little, saw you singing, looked at you. After some time, somebody crying. Child also, mommy. After some time, child is playing, crying, saw the mother or the father and very happy. Now, this 3 scenario is a normal scenario in my nursery. This is where we talk about attachment theory. Which child is attached emotionally to the caregiver? We need to understand this. First thing, first scenario. This child did not get distracted at all. When the parent came to pick up also, the child continued to cry. This child is not emotionally connected with anybody. The second scenario, the child was not crying, but was connected with physical, materialistic thing. When parent came, it was very difficult. The child was stubborn in his thinking pattern and he wanted materialistic thing, emotional development, connection. Third scenario, child is beautifully connected with the parent. There is a high level of chance of getting connected with the teacher. First and last scenario, the hope is higher. The second scenario is dangerous one, where child is intelligent enough but doesn't want to form emotional bond. Right? You want me to check the video, audio? Now, can you hear me? Sandhya? Hello? Can you hear me now?
Ma'am,
Hello?
you're clear.
Yes, thank you. So in this three scenario is attachment theory developed. The first is pre-attachment. Give me food and I don't care about anything. That is 0 to 3 months. Child doesn't know who is a mother, father. Whoever gives milk, cleans them is important person. But after that, child starts recognizing, and now only mummy. I want mummy. I want that particular person. That is called attachment in making. Finally, clear cut. If mommy is not there, I'll not do anything. Even if you're giving milk, I will not repeat. I will not drink. Now that is clear cut attachment. And finally, goal oriented partnership. When child comes to school, it is as a teacher, as a parent, a goal to develop a bond between the child and the teacher. How a child is spoken to about the teacher at home is very important. That will create a beautiful attachment. I will repeat what I said. Somebody is asking me to repeat. 3 scenarios. A child cries non-stop. When the parent comes to pick up also, child is crying. In the school also, child is crying. Dropping also, child is crying. First. Second scenario, child doesn't cry at all. Comes to the school, plays with the play material so happily. But when parent comes to pick up, he doesn't want to leave the material. And the third one is when the child is crying a little bit in between, getting distracted. When parents come, child is very happy to go back. In this 3 scenario, the third one is ideal. This child has developed a beautiful emotional bond, attachment with the parent. So there's a high hope to create an attachment with the teacher. Within 21
Christopher,
days,
please mute.
so within 21 days, the child is going to have a beautiful rapport with the teacher. First scenario, very difficult because child has no idea, no
Ma'am,
attachment.
I'm sorry. MVS Christopher, please mute. There's a lot of disturbance. Please understand.
Deepika, if we pamper them to stop crying, they will get attached to the teacher emotionally. They do not like to read or write after. I'll answer this, Deepika. Just hold on. Yashoda, touch and feel person. I agree, but in this lockdown time, I have no clue how we are going to handle, early childhood education without touching them, without cuddling them. We'll work on that eventually. Anyway, let's continue today and talk about attachment. So I spoke about 3 types of children. First and third, there's a hope of developing emotional bond. The second one, who's attached to materialistic thing, very intelligent child, but is not able to develop emotional bond. These children can be difficult, they can be a rebel. You need lot of persistency in love and warmth to create attachments. We have 4 terms for attachment. First is create a safe heaven. I'm writing it down so that you understand. Safe heaven, a place where child feels I can always come back to. There's a complete freedom in that area and child can come back to you every time. Secure base, where child feels that this thing is going to be existing forever. Being supportive is the next one. Just give me a second. I have a little hitch here. Just a minute. How about giving chocolates to stop crying? No chocolate. Thank you so much for that. We don't give any chocolate to children. because we are making them, dentist. Lot of sweet is calorie, hyperactive. Rather, I don't mind you making them help you make the chocolate, or jumping with them, playing with them, screaming with them. That's a good one. So no chocolate. Sorry. Child continues to cry irrespective of reason to go home until parent comes. She will cry. Stop junk food from young age. Good for their health. No, it is not. I hope I've answered. Child continues to cry irrespective of reason to go home. Yes, they will cry. That's okay. Crying is normal. Crying is allowed. Children who cry are not a troublemaker. Don't worry about it. I'm talking about creating an attachment. How do you create attachment? It will take 3 weeks. Some children get settled within a week. First 3 weeks of your nursery should not be any syllabus. It needs to be only kinesthetic, storytelling kind of activities. No much academics should be done, because you're weaning off child, developing emotional bond between you and a child. We have to make a lot of fun. They will mingle with us. Yes, that's right. Bang on. Cry louder than them. They stop and watch. Wow, Mansa, that's creative. But no, rather I will laugh. I will play with child who is quiet and want them to imitate my behavior. Explain the first scenario. I will. Child doesn't want to do anything, then play with them. This will help. Yes, play with them will help. Yes, Mansa. I will explain all the 3 scenario once more, because I think it went a little haywire. First scenario, child walks in to the school crying, doesn't play with anything. When parent come to pick up, continues crying. Not happy to see the parent also. Second scenario, child enters, no crying, plays with the material, non-stop, no crying, no nothing. Teacher is singing, let her sing, I am playing with the material. Child has to go home, doesn't want to leave the material. Parent come to take, child doesn't want to leave the material and cry. The third scenario, child walks in crying. You are singing, child looks at you for a little time, cries again, plays with the material, looks at you, cries again. Parent come very happy to go home. Ideal is third scenario, where child has amazing emotional bond with parent. They will develop emotional bond with you. First scenario, they are still not connected with parent, but there is a hope the child will develop. The second scenario is dangerous, where child is intellectually aware of materialistic joy he is getting, but not able to build emotional bond. Lot of persistency, passion, care, and warmth has to be given by the teacher, that after this 3 hours, I will send you back to home with your parent, safe. From teacher, that is important. From parent point of view, they need to talk highly about the teacher at home. That your teacher is so nice, she plays with you, she will send you home. It's only 2 hours that you're there, 3 hours you're there. That is the way we build our attachment. There are 4 terminology. I hope I have made this clear to you all. Play with them. Yes, please play with them, Mansa. That's right. Safe haven you create, secure base you create, proximity maintenance. There are some children who will rotate around the teacher, around the parent. They don't leave them. They hold them. These children are still insecure. We need to make them more secure. And finally, separation distress. The first child was in separation distress. So we need to understand this terminology. I will write it down again. Proximity maintenance is the third one, and fourth one is separation distress. For an example, when I went to drop my little baby to nursery, I was hanging on the gate and crying. Child senses it. They understand the parent is anxious, there is something scary. So a good readiness has to be developed in the parent, in the orientation program. They tell children that teacher is fantastic. She's not going to beat you. She's not going to shout at you. She's going to love you, sing for you, dance for you, play with you. And child develops easily. So please read this attachment theory in detail. It's beautiful that I got to talk to you finally after the technical issues that we had. I'm really sorry for wasting your 1 hour of a day. I apologize. And I take a punishment on myself and sing a song for you. Would you want to listen to a bye-bye song? Sir, a child is a slow learner. A child who is slow learner, let him be slow learner. You help by remedial. You help by writing it with him, not holding his hand. Slower. Lot of air writing. Air writing can be done. Air writing and table writing. Table writing can be done with children to improve their speed. Air writing is suppose cat. So I don't directly give crayon or a pencil. I say C-A-T. Write it in the air. Come on, everybody try 2 fingers. C-A-T. Air writing. And then table writing is
Sona ma'am, I would like to add here,
A
teachers,
and
if
T.
you're using
Yes,
if you're
Sandhya.
using Macmillan HSJ book, we have something called rainbow tracing. We have given in the digital, we also given in the book. So that might
That's
help you to speed up your writing.
Thank you so much, Sandhya, for bringing my attention to that. Rainbow writing is a beautiful technique. Offer the child crayon this manner, in this manner. Don't offer it like this. Take this crayon. No. Hold the crayons in your hand or in a tray and let child pick up as many crayons. Once they pick up the crayon, let them write. Once they write, they see beautiful color formation and they enjoy it. So that will help too in writing readiness. Your air writing and table writing can help in making them faster. Slow learner is an issue with their wiring. They will take time. Their physical capacity, mental capability, instructional capability, and wiring all gets involved in slow learner. So it cannot happen in a magic. It takes a lot of remedials. How can I teach my nephew to inform before peeing? He's 4 years. How can teach him? Yeah. So toilet training. Kindly read second stage of Erickson. It will help you in toilet training. The child is beyond the age of toilet training. 2.5 to 3.5 is the ideal age because we are sending them to daycares. Now we are putting diaper. Diaper doesn't give me idea, and that spoils my toilet training. We have to move with the time. So at home, compulsory no diaper after the age of 2.5, and make sure that child is informing. Rather now, 2 year onward, we can start toilet training. Why after 2 year? Muscle has to have ability to contrast and relax. Contrast and relax. And that is when bowel movement and bladder movement can be handled. That is toilet training. So this child has been in diaper for too long for him to develop this. So that's the answer to your question. I'm getting a lot of questions. Sandhya, you want me to continue with the answering question, or are we shutting down the session? Please send the PPT. Yes, we will. I'm just trying to read the questions. Sandhya, do you want me to continue for some time? If child doesn't want to leave the teacher, that is ideal. I love it. If child is hanging and then teacher explains to the child, I need to go home. I will come back tomorrow. Go home and you come back tomorrow. In the classroom, ideally, if you ask me, I don't allow child to sit in my lap. I do not hug one child. If I hug one child, I hug all the children. If I put one child in my lap, I make sure that every child gets a chance to be in my lap. Attachment with the teacher is beautiful, but over possessiveness is not healthy. So do not allow them. Day 1 onwards, draw certain lines. I hope I've answered your question, sir, over here. Who had asked me this question? Development professional, have I answered your question? Table writing means what? Megha, as we did air writing, C-A-T. The same thing, there is a base of table, and I asked child to do writing without pen or pencil or crayon, with fingers. As I speak C-A-T, child form shapes. So, the faster eventually I speak, the faster child will move hand. Now give the pencil and then child will be able to do little faster than earlier. I hope I have answered that. Mahesh ji, child doesn't want to leave teacher, that's ideal, but then I don't want such possessiveness in child. Yes, we will send the PPT, Falguni ji. While talking, suddenly child stops. Oh yes, Meeta. Children under the age of 6 are still developing sequencing in their brain. So when you are talking to them, they might be haphazard. They might start with a end. That's why telling a joke is not easy for the child. They don't know sequencing very well. A lot of storytelling and repetition of storytelling can help them to not to have an issue with this sudden stopping. Also, as a parent and teacher, we need to develop listening skill. Any question that you ask a child, you wait for 4 to 5 seconds in the brain count. 1, 2, 3, and wait for their reply. So that's important. If a child has a speech problem, sir, please check I have already answered this, so I'm not going to again repeat it. If they have a speech problem, I have spoken about it. Ma'am, if you can guide us to understand the psychostatus of adolescent, we'll take another session on that, sir. Yes, PPT will be sent. Explain, child was stubborn, doesn't want to write. Sand writing, water writing can be useful. Rainbow writing, fun. Child doesn't want to write because maybe he's not ready to write. Give him lot of clay molding, lot of play with slime, blocks, beads. Allow him to eat on his own, and make writing fun. If I know how to write letter A and you ask me to write 25 times, it's boring. I don't want to write. But every time I write A, if I have to sing a song, and on the apple, I might write. Or every time I write letter A and I have to see apple, astronaut, alligator, writing becomes interesting. So develop this kind of for making it interesting to write. I hope I've answered the question here. How can we write 5-year overcome their shyness? Don't push them, allow them to be shy, but acknowledge them. Being shy is not a bad thing. They will come out of their shell when the time is ready. How to counsel parents on slow learner? We can take another session on that. Counseling parents is a task. Parenting, talking to parents is another skill that we need to develop. We will be sending PPTs. Thank you, Lena, that you liked it, and we are going to learn a lot more together. Yeah, so now I'm taking my punishment and singing a song for all of you to listening to me.
Kasturi ma'am, please mute your audio.
Buya Yadaya is asking how the child can overcome from second scenario stage in attachment. Ma'am, what teacher has to do? Okay. Thank you so much. Attachment theory, second scenario where child is attached to materialistic things. We need to animate materialistic things and make him get into the role play. That's an ideal thing. Developing empathy in this child by doing role play, storytelling, puppetry can be very useful to bring him. It will take long time. Don't get disappointed. Don't give up on my child. He wants to be emotional. It's only the scenario has made him stubborn and dry with emotion. So if you introduce role play, puppetry, storytelling, and lots of tactile experiences, the child will come back to you. I hope I have helped you with the answer. Some kids do not speak when we are asking. Yes, Yashoda, that's normal. Allow children to speak on their own in their zone. That's normal and that's fine. How to motivate class level 2 child to write? Same way. Make writing interesting. Instead of writing, dictation, ask them to write a letter to you. How much they like you. And see how much they will write. Tell them to write to their best friend. Make writing interesting. And I promise you that they will do academics as well. If writing is a fun, it's not a punishment. How you're presenting is the key. Thank you for all the compliments from bottom of my heart. Please tell me, child who not interested in writing. Yeah, I cleared that. Yeah. So how often should we take them for field trips? Once in 2 months is ideal. If your school is proactive in UKG, you can take once a month also. Right. Thank you for all the compliments. All virtual kisses and hugs to you. And be safe. And I think I'm calling off. Please do not write any more queries. You can email it to me. I'm writing my email ID, or you can pass it through Sandhya. Sandhya, please help us when they send any
Sure,
queries.
sure.
For it to me.
Thank you so much, Sonal ma'am, and thank you
Yeah,
the
I'm going to
teachers who
finish
have
with a
taken a
song.
lot
Hold
of
on.
time.
My song.
Okay.
Bye bye song. Right? See you later, alligator. For a while, crocodile. See you later, alligator. For
Alligator,
a
for a
while,
while,
crocodile.
crocodile.
Give a hug, ladybug. Give a hug, ladybug. Blow a kiss, jellyfish. Blow a kiss, jellyfish. Out the door, dinosaur. Out the door, dinosaur. Take care, polar bear. Take care, polar bear. See you soon, big baboon. See you soon, big
That's
baboon.
lovely.
Bye bye, butterfly. Bye bye, butterfly. Thank you so much for being amazing audience. Thank you, Macmillan. And God bless you all and be safe, healthy, live, laugh, life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. We're going to keep organized Sonal ma'am sessions. My team will update you soon. Don't worry about the PPTs. Macmillan team will definitely share you. Thank you so much for your participation, especially for your
Thank you, ma'am.
patience,
Thank
and
you
you
so
have
much.
invested your 1 hour time. Amazing, guys. Love you all. So Sonal ma'am had a big heart to help and shape the little minds. Let us also take the same heart from it. Sonal ma'am, love you all the time.
Thank you, ma'am, so much. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.